Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel The Host Code. Today we are going to solve LeetCode's daily challenge, finding pairs with a certain sum. This is a medium level problem that teaches us how to use HashMap efficiently and optimize search operations on arrays. So let's get into the problem statement. So here you are given two integer arrays nums1 and nums2. You are tasked to implement a data structure that supports queries of two types. Add a positive integer to an element of given index in the array nums2. Count the number of pairs I comma j such that nums1 I plus nums2 j equals to given a value. Okay. Implement the find pairs class. Okay, so without getting any delay, let us get into the problem explanation. I'll explain you the problem on the notepad. Okay, so in here we are given two arrays. We are given two integer arrays, right? So integer arrays nums1 and nums2, nums1 and nums2. So we need to implement three method find pairs, which is basically dependent on these two methods. Add, where the parameters are index, value, and the other one is count, total. Okay. So what does these two methods do? This method which adds a value to the index value, the nums.2, nums.2 index. Okay. So, and what does this method do? This one returns the number of pairs, total number of pairs. Okay. So let's get into an example. So there is an array nums1, nums2. Okay. The first array would be 1, comma 1, comma 2, and the second array would be 1, comma 2, comma 2. Okay. And if I do a count function on this, count 4, what type of pairs it gives to me? Okay, it gives total 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it gives me total 3 pairs. Total 3 pairs, 3 pair, which is sum is 4. Sum is 4. What are those pairs? What are those pairs? One is 1 comma 3, and other one is also 1 comma 3. 1 plus 3, 1 comma 3. Okay, and the other one is 2 comma 2. So plus, you can say plus, you can take plus over here. So these are my 3 pairs, right? So now what I'll do is I will add at 0th index of nums2 array. I will add 1. What would it give? It becomes 1 comma, sorry, 2 comma 2 comma 3, right? I'm adding 1 over here. For this 0th index, I'm adding 1. Okay. So it becomes 2 comma 2 comma 3. And now I'll try to find the pairs again. Now it would return me only 2 pairs, right? Now the pairs would become 1 comma 3, 1 plus 3, and 2 plus 2. right? So there are no pairs, which gives me sum exactly 4. Okay, this is the problem. So the approach is pretty easy, and the brute force approach is not so efficient, because in the brute force approach, if we try to solve using a brute force approach, we would be traveling for every element. If I say for every element in nums1, for every element in nums1, iterate all over the elements to nums2, right? All over the elements to nums2. So, and check if the sum is equal to the target or not. This is the brute force approach if I think of. If we get any simple approach, this is the brute force approach. So in here the time complexity would be order of n into m, right? Because for every element in one sum, the nums1, it iterates all over overall elements in nums2 and check if the nums sum is equal to the target or not. So the for each count, it would take order of n into m. For each count, if I say, for each count method. So this is not an optimal approach. If we think of and if we code, we might be getting TLEX, time limit. Okay. So what is the optimal approach? What could be the optimal approach if we think about? The optimal approach is using HashMap, right? So using HashMap, how does it help us? Like, so HashMap will pre-process nums2 using HashMap, right? We will pre-process nums2 using HashMap to store frequencies, okay, for each number. So this way, for any number, for example, for any x number in nums1, you can compute required and to required in the sense total minus the value and check the frequency by getting it in the O1 complexity. So we will be getting the required by total minus x, and so we can compute it by frequency dot get required, right? So it gives us O1 complexity, right? HashMap is always an optimal approach in this scenario. So it gives us O1 complexity. Okay. So for for the for adding, we use for adding operation. What do we follow? Decrease the frequency. Decrease the frequency of nums2 in the index. Okay, and update the value. Update the value and increase the new frequency. Okay, so let's try to write the pseudocode. The pseudocode would be, first step would be initialize num1 and num2. Second step would be build a frequency map right? For getting the frequency map from, for which we are only targeting nums2, right? And then we need to complete the add method. So in the add method, the parameters are index and the value. Okay. The frequency map of nums to index minus minus, as we discussed above in the in our approach. So we decrease the frequency of the number, and for nums2 index we will add the value, right? We need to add the value, right, in the add method. So and then we will add this number's frequency in the hash map. Okay, and this is how we complete our add method. And how do we complete our count method? So count method has a parameter called total. It is an integer parameter, and we will initialize a result variable with 0, and for we will iterate it from nums to nums1, and then complement the value total nums, right? So the result would be plus equals to frequency map dot get or default the value, get or default, get the value, or default is 0, get the complement or default is 0, and after the loop we will return the result. That's it. So this is our pseudocode, and let's try to write the code in the LeetCode. So first we will initialize the arrays nums1, nums2, and the HashMap also, right? Frequency, and then we would call it through the constructor, and we will just fill the frequency map of what we have initialized before. Of what values? We are focusing on nums2, right? So we will fill the frequency map based on the nums2. Frequency dot frequency dot put num comma frequency dot get or default. For this we will be giving num or get the value. If there is no value, please add 1. Okay, if there is a value, please add 1. If there is no value, add 0. Right. So we have initialized the two arrays and also filled the frequencies in the hash map, inserted the values. So now we will take this value. So what is the old value? Why I have taken the old value? Old value is we need to decrease the value, right, in this. So first we will decrease the value and then initialize the new value and then return it, like, and then compute the value over there. So nums would be nums2 index frequency dot. So it is a global hash map, right? So we can access it over here also. So frequency map put old value comma frequency dot get old value. So right now here we will be decreasing based on our intuition, right? And then for nums2, for that specific index we will add the value. And then the new value would be frequency dot put new value the new value comma frequency dot get or default. New value 0. So this is a word function, we would not be returning anything. And next, we need to count the pairs right here over here. We need to count the pairs, so initialize the count with 0, and for iterate over the array, iterate over the array into nums1, sorry, nums1, so complement total minus num. Plus equals to frequency dot get vector default complement, 0, and then return the count, right? So for this, the time and space complexity would be at the constructor part, it would be O(n) because we are using a loop over here for initial getting the frequencies of the nums nums2, and for the add part, the time complexity would be O(1). The count part, the time complexity would be O(n), where n is the length of the nums1, right here. So let's run the code. Frequency. Okay. So now let's try to run the code. Okay. Great. So uh, so that's how you saw LeetCode finding pairs with certain sum. First, we built a frequency map for nums2, then we used it to count valid pairs efficiently, and finally we made sure that add method updates a map properly. So if you found this explanation helpful, do like, comment, and subscribe for more LeetCode solutions in Java every day. Also drop a comment if you'd like to see the same problem in other languages like Python and C++. See you in the next video. Happy coding.